started. How's everyone doing this rainy evening? Thank you so much for being here. I'm Christina Miller. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer of 1stdibs, and that means I oversee the seller side of our business. I just wanted, on behalf of 1stdibs, to welcome you all and to thank Lisa Smith of TRNet and Bronson van Wyck for hosting this wonderful event with us. Thank you guys so much. Lisa and Bronson represent two of the guiding principles of 1stdibs in many ways. Lisa is known for her ability to build strong communities. Many of those people are here tonight. And Bronson is known for his remarkable creative vision and ability to build beauty from the ground up. And 1stdibs at its core is a community builder in many ways. Our platform facilitates and invests in the design community and the community of dealers and makers who use 1stdibs to connect with a global audience of buyers. And our commitment to these communities is so, so important to everything we do at 1stdibs, and we're thrilled to be able to use our gallery space for that type of community building. And then similarly, our belief that it's our job to bring the most beautiful things on earth to everyone, to every computer, to every iPhone, is also so important to everything we do. We love being part of the inspiration process and the buying process for all of our customers, whether that be an interior designer creating magic for their client, a private collector looking for a rare jewel, or just someone searching for design inspiration and knowledge. And perhaps the best part of all of that is working with the visionaries like these two who bring beauty to life. And on that note, I'll turn it over to these guys, and thank you so much. I hope you enjoy the evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Lisa Smith, the founder of the PRNet. Thank you so much for being here on this very rainy evening. Welcome to our very festive last PRNet event for 2019. You know, we're excited to end the year on such a high note. It's really an honor for us to work with companies like 1stdibs and Van Wyck and Van Wyck. Our special guest this evening is Bronson van Wyck, who's here next to me. Bronson is the creative visionary behind many of the world's most memorable events, and he also just has released a coffee table book called Born to Party, Forced to Work. So yes, probably the best book title I've heard in a while. Yeah, so excited to chat to you more about your amazing career in the events industry.
Thank you, and thanks all you guys for coming tonight. It's coming down now. I'm not walking over here. I don't.
It's a lock-in.
Yeah, I don't live very far, but I actually got my taxis. Thank you for being here.
So Bronson, I'd like if you could share a little bit about your upbringing and your background and education and how that sort of helped you take the path that you have.
Well, maybe I should actually just give the microphone to my mother, who just walked in.
Yes, we have a special guest.
We grew up where my sister and I grew up where my mom had grown up herself in rural Arkansas, about 100 miles northeast of Little Rock and 100 miles northwest of Memphis, Tennessee, in the old floodplain of the Mississippi River. It was a wonderful place to be a kid. It was very rural and very, in a way, isolating and liberating at the same time. Our closest neighbors were my grandparents, and they were 3 miles away. There was a town of 1,000 people that was 6 miles away, which is where we went to school. And yet, I was lucky to be part of a family that really looked outward to the world and wanted to engage with the world. My father had come from New York. I had an uncle who was a stunt man. I had an aunt who was a painter, another who was a socialist. Everyone was sort of engaged with things going on outside of Tuckerman, even though everybody lived on the farm and mostly worked on the farm too. And what that led to was people coming to visit us. And people coming to visit us, they had nothing to do. There were no restaurants, there was no bar, there was no movie theater. So anything that happened while they were there, every meal, every fun thing was something that we kind of had to organize and put together. And so it was sort of like an everyday of your life crash course in event planning. felt an emotional urgency to it because, in fact, to get to us, they had come very far. So in those days, you had to change planes twice to get from New York to Little Rock. You know, people had made an effort and we wanted to return the favor. So it was kind of a movable feast going on all the time as we were sort of dealing with people. There were 20 of us in the family, and somebody always had somebody visiting. And so we tried to take care of them.
Let's make your own fun.
Yeah, to make our
I grew up in New Zealand, so I know, I get it. So a lot of people are familiar with your company, a lot of event planners and marketers in the audience, but can you elaborate a little bit about the work that your company, Van Wyck and Van Wyck, does?
Sure. So I had gone through this kind of extended process of elimination in which I figured out that I had no other skills than what I'm doing now. I'd worked at the State Department doing protocol. I had been an actor / waiter at the Bombay Cafe on the corner of Pico and Bundy in a strip mall, the second floor, in Brentwood. I had tried to work at a venture capital company. I'd been a set designer for a while. And while I was doing all those things, I wasn't necessarily fulfilled or happy, but I was actually learning what I do now, which is, you know, to be able to kind of, as a waiter, you're serving people. We're in service in what we do. When I was working in protocol, I was dealing with seating and placement and organizing timelines for events. I was building sets when I worked at Paramount. And when I was an actor, I guess I was kind of learning how to deal with clients. And we all have clients to deal with. What we do as a company is basically set design for events. And we're trying to build events as experiences, I guess experiential platforms, to make people feel a certain way. There are two divisions to the company. One plans private parties, and that's weddings or birthdays or any kind of celebration that really is about celebration as an end unto itself. And then the sister company is called Workshop, and Workshop is really, and I think a lot of people here are engaged in similar businesses. Workshop is about seeing events as an opportunity, seeing events as a platform where we can, in some way, engage people and program a degree of interaction between them. So when they arrive at an event, they feel one way about a brand or a product or a service or a cause. And through what we make happen while they're there, when they leave, they feel differently. And ideally, we're making them know more about something. We're helping them know more about something. We hopefully are making them need the thing. And really what we're going for is to make them love the thing. And so, you know, if people know about a product, they can go get it. If they need it, they'll get it and they'll use it. But if they love it, they'll get it and they'll tell everyone they know. So we are trying in the events that Workshop does to create basically brand ambassadors and the content that they need to communicate messages about brands.
And how do you get inspiration for the events that you work on?
Everything. I mean, walking around here, I got a lot of inspiration. Your dress gives me some inspiration.
It's Tanya Taylor.
It's
I
great.
see the PR team
It's
in the
great.
audience.
It's fantastic. I mean, I love hotel lobbies. There's always something going on. There's so much emotional energy always in a hotel lobby. I think that's probably true of anywhere where you, at the end of the night, have the possibility of getting a room upstairs. But it's also, people are coming, they're going, and they're on display. Art, contemporary art. I get a lot of inspiration from contemporary art. I don't love so much of contemporary art, but I find it very inspiring visually for events.
What are some trends are there any trends you can point to that are happening right now that you're into?
I think that there's for all kinds of events, and I don't know to what degree this is a sort of industry crowd, but what we're doing more and more is introducing personal elements into events. And so we are figuring out how to engage directly with the guests, and oftentimes it can be very simple. I mean, we did menus, there's a picture of this in my book, where we did menus at an event, and the menus were photographs of each guest at their place setting. So they also served as the place cards. And I mean, at the end of the day, we can make all kinds of pretty things, but people really do like to look at themselves. And particularly if you find a really good picture and you retouch it really well, and you know, so that just makes everybody happy at the table. And you know, we've done, in a similar vein, we've monogrammed napkins at each place setting, so it's the individual initials of the person who's sitting there. But more than that, we're trying to sort of get people to engage in a way they feel seen, heard, appreciated. And sometimes that's done by a brand, so they can then sort of seduce the person into giving them their information or communicating with them what their likes are, so that the brand actually knows how to speak more clearly or effectively to them at another time.
Can you walk us through your creative process, starting from when you first do your briefing with a client?
Writer's block, writer's block, writer's block, writer's block, writer's block, writer's block, client meeting in 5 minutes. Oh my God, we have to figure this out, and we figure it out. That's a lot of times, not all the time. I hang out with my mom and my sister, who I work with. We spend a lot of time together in work and out of work. I work with a group of people who are just incredibly passionate, and I want people working with us who are incredibly passionate and curious and interested in what's going on. And when I say what's going on, they want to go to the biennial show at the Whitney. They want to go to an underground party in the old St. Anne's in Brooklyn. They want to see things. They want to go to Iceland because they're getting a Google alert that the plane ticket's only $109. They want to do things and see things. And so we all get together and we all have our different perspectives. You know, when I started out doing this, I was the youngest person usually in the room. We were sort of doing big events for big companies, and I was 25, and I would lie about my age so that they could have confidence in us and trust that we might be able to get something done. I'm kind of doing the opposite now, because now we're meeting with a lot of clients who are a lot younger than I am now. I just told you my age. I never tell people my age. But you know, I'm almost, so I'm very grateful to have this team around me of some people who are older, but a lot of people are in their 20s, and they sometimes have the best ideas. They haven't been told no enough yet, so.
And tell me about your coffee table book. So it's sitting here, it's a brilliant title. I just want to hear about the title, first off. Born to Party, Forced to Work.
Well, it's just, I mean, it is the story of my life. And maybe it's the story of other people's lives. We all have had to do something we didn't want to do in order to do something that we did. So.
And also there's a hashtag born to party, I believe, that you guys use, so
yeah.
FYI.
It's been 20 years since we started the business, and I was thinking for a long time about doing this, and I probably should have done it a while ago. And finally, I took 4 months off at the beginning of this year and wrote, and I couldn't really get anything to come out, so I just started recording myself talking, and I paced around my apartment talking into my phone for 2 months, and then I cut and paste for 2 months and turned in a text, and that was kind of the process. We had the pictures. I mean, you know, we work with all these incredible photographers on these events. They all have a point of view. It always comes through in their work. And so we had thousands and thousands of pictures from the parties that we've done. We're doing almost 200 events a year. So, you know, we get a lot of pictures out of that. And what's really funny with the book, and I don't know if anybody else here has ever written a book or thinking about writing a book, this is very picture driven. It's funny because some of the best parties that we've ever done aren't in this book because we don't have good pictures of them. And then there are things in this book that, I mean, you know, they were great, but not remarkable, I think. But we have a great picture, and so they're in here. And so it's so important for PR and for marketing and for any kind of communication that depends on visual to document. We now do not do an event without a photographer. We just don't do it. And if we can afford it, we have video at every single one of them. You learn.
And how important is Instagram in this whole?
Well, I mean, a lot of what we're doing now is this notion that I was talking about before, sort of creating ambassadors for a company or a brand. The way that they're able to do that is through social media. So, you know, if we can take the new Ferragamo fragrance campaign, which shows a picture of a naked woman in a bed with a gift next to her, and the sort of narrative that you can divide, that you can sort of see from the picture is, oh, she met a guy the night before and she woke up and he had sent her a gift. And, you know, if you can do a party and you can have that bed and you can have an insanely beautiful model in the bed at the party who's inviting guests to get in the bed with her or with him, and they get in and they take their picture, they're gonna post that, right? And if you have 400 guests at a party and each of those guests has, I mean, let's say somewhere between 1,000 and 2,000 followers, which is kind of really not unusual, but you get 10 guests there who have 500,000, you at the end of the day you can be seen by 10 million people. And so you're throwing a party, an experience for 400, but you're really creating content for 200 times that, 2,000 times that.
Absolutely. And it feels like the events and experiential industry's really boomed. I mean, you're doing 200 events.
Well, I think it's boomed because there's nothing, traditional advertising is like scattershot, just throw the message out there, put it on the bus, put it on the, the broadcast network, and hopefully somebody sees it who might be interested in the product, might be able to afford the product, might live in an area where the product's available, and I mean, that's not efficient. And so it's why digital is replacing that. Experiential is also replacing it, because while digital is a great point of contact, and it's a great point of contact that also can immediately turn into a transaction, nothing is like the experience for creating the emotional relationship. And so there's nothing like, we do a lot of work for Chanel, and there's a chapter in this book on a bunch of parties that we've done for Chanel. We don't do their big couture fashion show in Paris. It's done in-house by the team based there. But I've gone to that show, and I mean, I think if Chanel clothes they don't make men's clothes, so I don't have to worry about trying to afford them or wear them. But you go to this show and you see this artistry, and you're just sort of in awe from the experience of it, and the touching the fabrics. I mean, I think it's what 1stdibs is doing in a way here by creating this space where, it's an e-commerce platform that is offering an opportunity to see, touch, feel the product. And I think you can see a beautiful couch, but if you can lay down on the couch and imagine how you're gonna feel watching a football game on it on Sunday afternoon, or doing whatever you might do on the couch. I mean, it creates a different kind of relationship.
Absolutely. And so I'm sure by putting together this coffee table book, which really chronicles your career in events, you must have some really poignant memories or great highlights or experiences that come to mind when you've been putting this together.
Our memories are usually, my memory, and Mom and I laugh about this, our memories about events are usually about disasters and problems. times, and just crazy things that have gone wrong. Oftentimes, that we're the only ones who know about. Thank God. I mean, there are things that have happened to us that if people knew it, these are not in the book. If people knew what they were, we would never work again. Because sometimes it's a mistake we make. I mean, we all do. We were in Miami. We were doing a party for Quincy Jones. I have a chapter on disasters in here, and this is one of them. But we were doing this party for Quincy Jones. It was during the VMAs, and for some reason they had decided to have the VMAs in Miami during hurricane season. And they had a great list for Quincy Jones had an insane list for this party, and the VMAs had an insane group of nominees to that year and an insane crowd of people coming. Anyone see Sleeping Beauty? The first scene where Maleficent shows up and she hadn't gotten her invitation, and it was an awkward situation, and she threw down the curse. Well, the Maleficent for us that year her name was Katrina. So Hurricane Katrina comes through town, and the wind was so strong out on the beaches that if you stood outside, you would start bleeding from the sand being blown by the wind. So we all retreated to the mainland, and we had been planning to do this party in a tent on the beach. We had actually got the frame of the tent up, but not the fabric material. And the frame was fine. The wind, went right through it. But we get there the day before the party, and there was 30 inches of standing water that was not going to go away. So, we had to figure out what to do. We ended up building stilts for the floor. And we built this floor about 2 inches above this water, and a walkway that led out to it. And we added candles and torches and all kinds of bowls with fire in them. It was the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. And there were 13 parties that were supposed to be taking place after the VMAs. They all got canceled, except for Kanye's party, which is at Nobu. And somebody got shot there in the first 45 minutes. So all the celebrities from that party came to our party, and there weren't any other parties going on. And we ended up, out of a disaster, having kind of the epic thing of the night. But, I didn't sleep for 72 hours, and I think I thought it was over. This happened so many times. We did the opening for Hearst Tower. This is also touched on a little bit in the book, and we had Cirque du Soleil, and we had these performers 110 feet in the air, and one fell. And she had a harness on that catches her after she falls 8 inches. But I saw her fall 8 inches. Doesn't sound like a lot, but the jerk, the stop, and all the motors turn off and everything. And I just went outside and threw up. I just saw her crashing through Norman Foster's glass waterfall. And I thought, what are we doing here? But you sort of the show has to go on. So we sat together for an hour. She cried, I cried, and then we went back in and finished the rehearsal.
Wow. I think my palms were sweating then. We organized
My palms are sweating because I'm sitting up here in front of all you people.
We organized a few events, but definitely nothing has transpired like that. Just, a colleague went into labor, I think, one time early. We had various blizzards. Donald Trump won the election unexpectedly. There've been various things that have happened, but nothing quite like that. No injury to persons that I'm aware of.
Working on an event on election night?
The day after. It was the day after, but it actually, weirdly, like yours, turned out quite well in that I think the majority of people coming to our event were having a drink in solidarity and just really recapping on the day before's event. So, yeah.
I was working, Mom and I worked on the Democratic Convention the year that it was in Los Angeles, which was 2000. And then we started volunteering. I say volunteering because they were paying us, but I mean, you know, it was a joke. And they paid us literally, 13 months late sometimes, the check would come. It was pitiful. But we were working for Al Gore, and we did maybe 70 events for him during the campaign. And then the election happened, and we were up to do his inauguration. If he had been president, we probably, we assumed we were going to be doing it. They kind of assumed we were going to be doing it, assuming he won. And after the election, nobody knew who the president was going to be, because the hanging chads and the recounts in Florida and Ohio and all this stuff going on. Well, the Bush-Cheney people had hired this incredibly efficient, professional sort of convention services company with hundreds and hundreds of employees, and to work on their inauguration. And they weren't willing to start until they had their contract and their deposit. And of course, we were just the two of us. And there are only 11 weeks to get all this done. And we didn't know how we were gonna get it done, even if we were starting the next day. So we just started. We worked for 5 weeks. The court then, Supreme Court, the final decision came down and it was given to Bush. So we packed up and went home. 2 weeks before the inauguration, the phone rings. It's George Bush's secretary. The company had wasted 5 weeks out of 11, and they couldn't get it done. Nobody could get it done in the 6 weeks that were remaining. So they were calling for help. And, this really nice woman said, we want you to help us with this inauguration. And I said, okay, I was in LA. I said, FedEx me everything. It was a Friday. I said, FedEx me everything for Saturday delivery. And I will work on it all weekend, and I will write you up kind of a memo of my thoughts, and I'll get it to you on Monday. She said, you don't understand. There is a plane leaving LAX in 3 hours and 45 minutes. We need you to be on that plane. You have 4 tickets in first class, bring whoever you need. I said, do you know who I am? All I've done are events for Democrats. And I did yes, we know. And, we laughed about the Gore. I've done 71 events for Al Gore. We know, we're that desperate. And I said, I'm gay. Your boss doesn't like gay people. Oh, but no, he wants the inauguration to reflect the diversity of America. She had every answer. And, at the time, an inauguration was a celebration of this constitutional, peaceful transition of power that actually we invented in this country. So it was an act of state, it wasn't a political thing. So we went and we did it, we worked on it, and we made it happen. So.
Okay, maybe enough politics, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
So, on lighter topics. So we're obviously in the height of party season. A lot of people are going to be entertaining in the coming weeks. What are your top party tips for people who are going to be hosting guests?
Well, have fun. That's the most important thing, because your friends are coming to see you have fun, and they want to see you. They want to see you smile. And in order to do that, I think you have to prepare. There's a whole lot of things that you can do before a party starts that make it a lot easier to be there while the party's going on. You don't want to be DJing at your own party, so make a playlist. It's so easy. Or just take one of Spotify's, because some of them are really good. I use SoundCloud a lot because it's slightly different versions or remixes of songs that I oftentimes make a punch, or I make a huge batch of mixed margarita mix or Bloody Mary mix or something, and then you put it out in pictures and people can kind of do the ratio themselves at the bar, and you're not having to be the bartender at your own party all night. Don't serve souffle unless you've got a staff. You know, you're gonna leave the table for 25 minutes and there's a solid, I don't care how good a cook you are, there's a solid 25% chance it's gonna be a disaster. So, you know, think of things that you can do room temperature. I give people shots the second they come in, every single time. I also give them a smile and a hug. You know, I mean, it's funny how little things make a big difference when you're sharing warmth, and they're free.
And what makes for a good guest on the other side of things?
Gratitude. I think that that's what guests owe hosts. Hosts are taking the time to free you from your worries about your temperature, your thirst, your hunger. Be grateful for it. It's really nice to leave behind your day and have somebody else be worried about these things. And, you know, I think what comes with gratitude is, you know, kind of two things. You need to be a little bit oblivious, meaning you don't notice if something goes wrong, unless you can help fix it. Because something's always going to go wrong for the host. And so a little bit oblivious, but equally, and maybe even more importantly, is being present. And being present means engaging with curiosity and openness and vulnerability with the other people who are around you. You're not on your phone, you're not on I'm not saying you guys are all great guests, I can tell. But it's about being engaged.
Perfect, noted for the holiday season. And tell us, what are the marks of great hospitality? Like, are there any specific things that you can point to?
I think if people want to come back, that you've done a good job. I think, you know, we do all these events for people in all kinds of crazy situations. And sometimes the event is not about love. Sometimes it's about positioning. You're having a certain kind of party, one is having a certain kind of party in order to affirm their membership in their peer group, or to potentially apply for membership in a higher ranking peer group. Those aren't the best parties. They never are. Sometimes they're the prettiest, sometimes they have the best entertainment, sometimes they spend the most money, sometimes they have the most flowers, but they're just not the most fun ever. So I guess the mark of a great host, I think, is having a sense of humor about it all too. Yeah, happy guests. I mean, happy guests and rolling with it. You gotta roll with it. My friend Rena Cindy, she had a 50th birthday in San Tropez. I wasn't working on it, I was just there. The dinner never came. She had 200 people who had flown to France, and the food never came. It just never came. So, you know, an hour and 45 minutes after sitting at the table with breadsticks, she got everyone up to dance, and she you know, made a line. She started passing out lemon drops. She got everybody on that dance floor, and she called a pizza parlor, and she ordered 60 pizzas, and she had those pizzas served on silver trays 45 minutes later, and people loved it. But who wants to eat Lou de Mer with some kind of Béarnaise hollandaise sauce thing in the middle of the summer, right? I mean, people were so psyched. I was so psyched, especially if you've been drinking, and all we'd been doing was drinking at that point for 3 hours. So she had a sense of humor, and she rolled with it, and she went, and if she had melted down, if she had been screaming, if she had been fighting with the owner of the restaurant, which any person would be, right? She just went on.
I love it. Well, thank you. You know, you've had this incredible success releasing your coffee table book. What can we expect in the future? What does 2020 have in store for your company and yourself professionally?
Hopefully more sleep. I mean, I don't know. We're working a lot in Europe these days, and we're working a lot on the West Coast. I don't think we're necessarily going to open offices there in the next year, but I am really looking forward to. I love to travel. And I love to travel and actually also have something to do. So it's great to travel for these events and then stay after and work. But we're doing some great work for brands. We're doing a snow polo tournament in Aspen. We're doing stuff in Italy. We're doing Shanghai. And so this is really, that's what I'm most excited, and sleep, really sleep. And you guys are probably excited for me to stop talking. So why don't we ask for some questions?
Yeah, I mean, this is very informal, but did anybody have anything they wanted to ask Bronson? I mean, we'll obviously have the opportunity to chat immediately after this, and we have copies of the book if anyone would like a signed copy, perfect holiday gift, obviously. But yeah, if there were any thoughts or questions, we can either bring the microphone over now, or we've got a lady
Please.
behind the.
Hi, I'm Erica.
Erica! Hi.
We've kind of worked together. I flew in from Chicago because I wanted to get to hear it and to see your book. But I have a question for you. And I actually was going to ask you this offline, but I had to leave for my flight at 8 o'clock. So just really quickly, I'm looking to start my own business. I'm going to leave. Right now I do corporate event planning and I do luxury lavish events for my boss, who is like the ultimate entertainer. So do you have any advice for me branching out to start my own?
I think, have a client or two
I have
before.
one.
Yeah,
I have
before,
one door.
yeah, before you branch out. But no, I mean, you're gonna need to, you're gonna want to find a couple of others. Leverage where you are now before you leave. Leverage the contacts that you have. Pull all that together and start those conversations now. Because, when you're pitching for business, when you're asking for business, people say, if you want advice, ask for money. And if you want a client, kind of, you ask really ask for advice. And eventually those relationships will deepen. They'll take you seriously, what you're doing. And every no really is just another step on getting to yes. I've been turned down by so many people for so long, who we ultimately ended up doing 10 events for. You just had to keep working on them and keep figuring out the right way to communicate with them. And whether it's sending them a little gift of macaroons, because they like the macaroons that have there's a company that has an H on them, and I sent those to somebody who, name started with an H. I mean, you just come up with ways, touch points. It's a full-time, we used to be either working or working to get work. And, when you start out, you're probably spending more time working to get the work. But that's the way it goes. But congratulations, it'll be your own. That's really exciting.
I have a couple of questions. The first is, you said you did 200 events a year, which is incredible. How big is your firm? Like, how many people do you have working here?
We're probably full-time employees. Well, we're definitely under 50 because there's all kinds of things that this city does to you if you get to 50 in terms of compliance and health and all kinds of crazy regulation, and we don't have departments to do all those things, so we sort of stay under 50. We're probably another 90 who are contract people who either are working by the hour or by the day, many of whom are working actually in production. They're carpenters, seamstresses, scenic painters. So kind of, and that number kind of goes up and down with the rhythm of what we're working on.
Two very quick questions. I have a small art PR firm. How do you avoid burnout? And the last question is, do you find it hard to go to other events where things are not being done the way that they should be?
To answer the first question, the burnout thing, writing this book actually was really, for me, restorative. And I hope that comes through a little bit in the pages, because it was just using totally different muscles in my brain than I had been using for, really since college. I didn't even finish my senior essay in college. So this was, it was sort of redeeming myself maybe for that. But no, it was really nice to not go to the office and, you know, be at home in my bathrobe for a good portion of the day, just talking to myself. And so that was nice. How will I do it in the future? I don't know. I mean, I was close to burning out, I think, when I did that, and this has given me kind of another lease on engagement. The other question was...
do you find it hard to go to other events?
Oh, sometimes. I mean, of course, we all do, right? I mean, it's like, come on, get this thing right, you know, sometimes. But honestly, the biggest feeling I feel when I go to a party, I'm happy to be invited. I'm happy to be invited. There's a part of me that's always a little bit wistful, like, God, I wish we'd been doing it. Why didn't they call us to do this party, you know? If it's good, I'm feeling, you know, that way. There's a part of me that's learning, always. Good things, bad things. And so there's part of me that's glad I'm not working and I'm just getting to have fun. So I don't ever express opinions, ever, about other people's parties, except gratitude. But I have them.
Did I see somebody else's hand go up before? In the back. Yes.
Hi. Oh, yes, I should stand up. I'm Megan, and I run a creative company, and my business is very international. I'm always impressed with people who have their headquarters based in New York, but they're able to create resources and pull teams in different countries around the world. How do you find yourself doing that? I mean, it sounds like you've got a really strong dynamic team, but how do you have to do that in different cities?
Well, the most important thing is just to be nice. And we have a real culture, and this comes from my mom, I think, much nicer than I am. But we have a nice group of people. And, you know, sometimes you have to go for weeks to figure it out. We did Madonna's birthday in Marrakesh, and it was out in the desert and horses and everything. And, you know, it was really, you had to go talk to these people. There was no way to do it over the phone. I remember the first wedding that we did up in, I was still living in LA, and it was in the Hamptons, and they wanted a barn. They wanted their wedding to be in a barn, and I couldn't go that week. And I called Mom, and I said, Mom, we gotta find a barn. And so she went to Southampton for a week, and she found real estate people. She found an interior decorator who's now become one of our really good friends. She found, just by being nice and talking to people, and you know, she found people to drive her around and look at barns. So sometimes it's just being kind. I'll always, when we're going to a foreign country, I mean, we check with I was in the protocol office at State, and so there's a whole book that we have for every country that was paid for by the taxpayers that talks about what the cultural norms are. And you know, you don't wear white in Japan, it's a hell of a funeral, you don't do this, you don't do that, certain numbers in certain countries are, and all that is available online. You know, so we check in about that. But in terms of finding resources, sometimes we bring them, sometimes we try to find them. A lot of times we find them there and then we supplement, you know, because they might not have the same level of equipment that we have here. They might not have quite the same aesthetic. And so, you know, we'll bring someone to supervise. We don't say they're there to supervise. We'll bring someone to collaborate, who will do it exactly how I want it done.
Anyone else? Last chance? No? Okay, good. Well, if please, you're welcome to stay, have more champagne, courtesy of Pommery. Thank you again. But Bronson, it's an honor and it's a
You're
pleasure.
so great, thank you.
No,
This
thank
is
you.
really-
No, and
so
you know,
nice.
being industry people, it's amazing to hear a story of someone who's created such a great career out of event planning. So congratulations and
Thank you. You know, and we're also hiring. So if there's anyone here who's interested in events, please talk to us. Please talk to
I
us.
kind of am, no.
And I hope at least a few of you will get some books, and I'll sign them. Thank you.
Thank you.